Brighton have beaten Man United at Old Trafford for the first time ever. An absolute tactical masterclass from Graham Potter with a very well organised team. This is what they looked like. A lovely kind of diamond. I'll talk more about that in a minute. United obviously adjusting to what Ten Hag is trying to teach them. Really not very good whatsoever. The same problems they've had for a long time. We'll go through them all. Now first of all, we'll start with the setups. So United had like a 4-2-3-1. So all through pre-season, it's been like a 4-2-3-1 when they're defending, with McTominay alongside Fred like this. But really when they go forward, Fernandes will go more like this sort of area here. McTominay goes more like this, a bit more attacking than Fred, who drops in here to be more like a 6 there. Then you've got wide forwards and Rashford and Sancho. And then they also decided to play because Martial was injured and they don't want to play Ronaldo from the start. They played Eriksen as a striker. That's very relevant because for most of the game they basically didn't have any strikers here. And the same problems were in this Man United team that we've seen for a long time. The goalkeeper is not a sweeper keeper. He just doesn't have the ability to play short passes, spot an easy pass. Whenever he gets the ball and is under pressure, he needs to take more time, drops deeper, takes time and just hoofs it. There's a pre-season video where you saw Erik Ten Hag shouting, "What are you doing?" to David De Gea, taking a long kick. Same thing in this game, we saw him kicking it long when he should be looking for it short. But United were rattled because another problem they had is that Maguire's positioning, absolutely terrible, trying to cover for other people when he doesn't need to, like he doesn't have the trust of his teammates, he doesn't trust them, he's trying to cover and put out fires when he shouldn't be. There's a couple of examples I can show you what happens with that. Fred, he was the pressing trigger for Brighton because Brighton had United sussed out from the start. Brighton pushed high up the pitch. We thought Ten Hag's teams would be ones that press high up the pitch, but United just couldn't do it because they weren't able to have enough of the ball in the final third to be able to do that. They had a lot of possession, but it wasn't particularly purposeful. Brighton, on the other hand, pushed high up the pitch. They weren't pressing high. They were waiting until the ball went in to Fred, and as soon as Fred got the ball, they surrounded him well back, would try and make sure that it couldn't go to Martinez or Maguire. Lallana would push him, or Pascal Gross would come in, or you'd get Caicedo in over here. The big problem they had was that Dalot would go wide here, Shaw would go wide here. Sometimes it would look more like a back three, like this. If Shaw pushes up wide, so Rashford can come inside, then you'll see Dalot drop back into a 3. This is what they've been doing all through pre-season as well. This sort of thing, just to give you a bit of stability. And you've got Fred here, so technically you've got a diamond. Free-flowing Dutch football styles, Ten Hag styles, you want diamonds and triangles, so you've got passing options. Brighton did it perfectly, so they had a diamond all the way through, with this McAllister as the kind of 6 holding, you had Gross, Caicedo here. Now this is obviously very narrow, but what Brighton did so well from the start was push Trossard and March completely high up the pitch, so they were essentially forwards. So you had 3 across the front, you had the number 10 here, 2 and 1, and then you've got wide defenders. Now you can get away with having wide centre-backs like this when you don't have a striker. So you drop in here, look, no one to bother with, you can play this, cover more of the pitch. If it looks like they're going to come inside, you squash in. By the time they do that, you slowed them down, and then you can get your wing backs to come back and help out, which they did constantly throughout the game. Another problem we've got is the lack of technical expertise in the midfield for United. They were just so poor in build-up. Let's say they were playing with a back 4, split centre-backs. Now, where Brighton were taking 1 and 2 touches to move up the pitch, they're playing like really nice, like one touch into here, 1 touch here, then a bit of movement in here, a bit of movement here, 1 touch to move through the pitch and go through United. United were taking so many touches and build up. You had Martinez taking forever, waiting for the run, passing to Fred. The press comes quickly, he has to put it back. A couple of times he gave the ball away, almost set up goals. I think Caicedo, maybe Trossard got in to almost score. Early on, Trossard hit the side netting from about here as well. But this is the thing, they were just waiting for the ball to go into Fred. As soon as it did, steal it. McTominay, another player who's not very good at dealing with the ball in tight situations. Whereas Fred likes to play short passes. He goes short, like that. And then maybe just a little bit of a dribble sometimes, a little short pass. That's what Fred does. Fred is a short passing man. McTominay likes to dribble, he likes to carry. So he'll just take the ball and he'll try and carry it. Doesn't really play progressive passes, does progressive carries. And Brighton knew this. Like I said, they're focusing on Fred as the pressing trigger. They were pushed high up the pitch, but they weren't pressing hard until it went to Fred. That's what the trigger's for. And United struggled. So what you had then with Eriksen meant to be the false 9 is that because they just couldn't pass the ball forward and couldn't get out of this slot because people had to drop in to receive it, and then Veltman would go with Rashford, or Dunk would have, Fernandes here, McAllister's helping out as well. What happened eventually is that Eriksen started to get bored and frustrated with this and started to drop in, so he was then dropping in. So they're losing their player up front. Fernandes then has to come in here to offer some sort of option. They've got absolutely nothing going forward. Brighton can easily defend it. And that means, if they can easily defend it, that they can very easily push higher up the pitch play the back three, not a back five, and then you've got Trossard, march wide, pushing that with a midfield diamond to overload the pitch. And what you often had with Brighton in this game, so Trossard, Caicedo, Lallana, and then Welbeck would come over here. And so what you'd end up with is a 4v3, or you'd end up with Webster pushing up, and you'd have a 5v4. And you just see, this is how they get these one-touch passes. So Caicedo would be here. You got, look at the angles, right? So you want to have this sort of angles. You want to have diagonals like this. So you've got a passing network. The ball can constantly be rotated like this. Players can move around and swap positions all the time. And United were constantly outnumbered in wide areas. Couldn't adjust to it, but it makes sense, right? This is a new Man United team. They're trying to adjust to Ten Hag's instructions. This is what we saw. But if we look at how this diamond worked, for the first goal that Brighton scored and where United conceded from, this is what it looks like. So you've got two centre-backs United. The full-backs have inverted slightly. A very common thing a lot of managers do now. So you've got Dalot and Shaw in here with Fred as a 6. You've got Brighton players in a straight line, 1, 2, 3, 4 of them. These in the midfield who form the diamond. They're constantly moving to like shapes moving like this. And it's because Brighton players are very well drilled. United's players are clearly learning what they're supposed to be able to do and aren't doing it very well or with any particular aggression. You've got the two wing backs here. This is what I'm talking about. So you've got Welbeck with two wing backs. You've got midfield 4 outnumbering United. And then what happens is the ball moves out to the wide area. Brighton start to come forward. You can see all this space in the middle. You've only got Fred and McTominay. So McTominay comes over here to help out with Dalot. You've got Sancho further up the pitch. Needs to come back in here to help in the situation. But you've just got these two. Back 4 in a line. Welbeck's trying to push them back. The wing back is here, going to move out to the wide area. Wing back here is on the ball. So Brighton keep coming forward with the ball. United have left all this space. Are clearly outnumbered here. This is a big problem. They need to adjust immediately. They don't. Trossard plays a brilliant pass between these two here. I mean, if Thomas is watching him, don't know who he's blocking because the player is in here. The ball's obviously going to go through that gap. Comes in behind here. Welbeck beats the offside trap that Maguire tries to do. And then what you see is as Welbeck gets in behind, just onside here, this is where the overload becomes a problem because you've got fullback here trying to deal with it. I think it's Martinez actually trying to deal with Welbeck. You've got Maguire then trying to adjust to get back to cover it, not as quick as he should do. And then there's a spare man here because Shaw has to come along. So Brighton's overload have given them real troubles. If you look at the next goal that they concede, so this starts in the corner flag. A really clever back heel, I think it's from Trossard, that evades a challenge, and then Brighton just go forward really quickly. 1-touch, 2-touch passes, move up the pitch freely. United don't have any power in midfield. They've got Eriksen dropped in as a deeper midfielder. So what you got here is Maguire, Martinez, Shaw. This is Fred over in right back for some reason at this sort of point. Again, transitional, not really doing very well. Lots of space in the middle, too many gaps. Roy Keane talked about it at half-time of the game. Maguire, the centre-back, should be here. This is where he should be right now. Instead, what he does is he follows Lallana inside the pitch, doesn't track Welbeck, goes to here. This is just bad defending. You should never, ever have this shape, your two centre-backs, in this point of a game, just ever. The ball's going to go wide to this area here. Maguire should then reset, drop back in so the team can keep its shape. That's how you practice in training, you keep your shape. Maguire follows over here. Martinez is defending everything on his own now with Welbeck over here. And then Maguire tells Martinez, no, you stay here, I'll go to this stage, the left centre-back. You're now right centre-back, that's what he does. The ball goes out wide here, and then more from Maguire. Here's Maguire, what he does, same as De Gea. When he's defending, he always drops too deep to try and give himself more time and space, but he's watching, always watching, reacting slightly too late, never proactive, never reading the play. The ball comes in, Maguire's he's given him a whole yard here. He should be tight to him. He should be next to him, so the ball comes in, he can touch it. He doesn't do that. The ball comes in, and you see Maguire, this is the space he's trying to make up now. He's still too deep. What's he trying to do? Then this player is able to put the ball into the net, and that's how Brighton take the lead from there. So, at half-time, what you had was Ten Hag obviously didn't like what was going on, made some changes. The most obvious one that United needed to do was put on a striker. So what they did was take off Fred, who was not happy about it, but he shouldn't have been because he was rubbish. Ronaldo going on up front. Straight away, that's a problem because now you've got this guy, you can make runs in behind. The centre-backs aren't quite as comfortable as they were. So what happened was they adjusted the shape a little bit, put Veltman to right back, Dunk over here, Webster here, and then dropped in March to the left. So they played a back 4, and it became very much like a 4-2-3-1, just to try and adjust to this change from Ronaldo with Fernandes here. And that meant Eriksen dropped in, he was already doing it anyway, infinitely better than Fred in this game. Maybe Fred was nervous. This fixed a lot of problems. United could then push more players forward, and that's why they looked so good in the second half. You had Rashford able to come inside, you had Ronaldo playing off the back of these centre-backs, trying to sneak in to get goals. Then you had Trossard having to come back, not able to push up so much because he was doubling up, because suddenly you had Sancho, you had Dalot either overlapping or underlapping him here. It's just more players. It's a 3v2. Ronaldo, Sancho, Dalot, 3v2 with March. That's good. And Eriksen was just controlling things from deep. So you'll have noticed Eriksen was able to be here and he was able to ping passes and thread through the lines. Fred never ever passes to the lines, always goes sideways, whereas Eriksen can hit these passes, which is why they were so good. Then another big change that United made, worked really well. McTominay off, Van de Beek on. Fernandes plays left side if these two are 8s, he plays left side here in the half space here. Van de Beek goes here, but he goes all around. He likes to underlap and come in behind the striker. He's basically a second striker, he's like a number 10. So when you have a midfield of Fernandes, who is definitely a 10, he likes to be in his zone, do whatever he wants to do, not really a system player. You got Van de Beek, who is a very much a system player, but wants players to pass to him, and they don't, so he makes a run, drags the player out of position, the ball doesn't come into him, it goes sideways. Too many touches. You got Eriksen, who can play as a 6. Obviously, he did all right with that. It's not perfect. What you need to have players like McTominay in there because he's got a bit of aggression, a bit of bite about him. You want that in a midfield, but you've got a better technical team with Van de Beek and Fernandes either side of Eriksen. It's just not balanced whatsoever. And then this worked for a little while. They got into the game, they scored a goal, and then Graham Potter, total game management, changes it again, pushes March back up to left wing back. Veltman comes inside, Dunk, Webster is the back 3, puts on Lamptey, I think off comes Lallana. So basically they made a bunch of changes. This is not exactly what happened, it doesn't really matter, but the shape was what was interesting, because the shape going back to this meant that then they could push these guys up again to stop the overloads in the wide areas. Lamptey was very good dealing with Shaw, and what you saw is more of these examples of Brighton players knowing what they're doing. So when they're putting the ball forward, Gross just knew that Lamptey would overlap, because that's what Brighton players do. If Gross pulled out wide, Lamptey would know to come inside, because that's what Brighton players do. So well coached from Brighton. All these players work well. Sanchez had a few nervy moments, but made some big saves as well. Brighton looked like a much better coached team. They've been together far longer, so that makes absolute sense. That would be what it's done. But United have exactly the same problems. They badly need a player like Frenkie de Jong to be able to bring the ball out from here. They need to take fewer touches, much fewer touches. They have way more possession, but it was all 3-4 touches, a little dribble, backwards pass. You can swap sides sometimes when Brighton were in a back 4, but too many touches, that's why they're so slow. Brighton could block them, block all chances into the box, and Brighton were the better team by a mile. And that's what I thought of Man United versus Brighton, a really well-deserved victory for Brighton at Old Trafford. Well done to you. And if you enjoyed what I said, please like and subscribe to this channel. Subscribe to the channel. Do it now. Okay, bye-bye.
If you like this video, please consider subscribing to the channel. The Athletic brings you the best sports journalism in the world in a personalised experience, connecting you with the stories and teams that you care about the most. There's coverage of 13 sports, plus direct access to world-class journalists through live Q&As, discussions and podcasts. Not to mention, it's all ad-free. And you can try it now for free for 30 days by clicking the link in the description.